Hey everyone, welcome to the Market and Grow show. With me today, I have Alan Kornstein, a founder and CEO of Camino Brewing Company. Hi, Alan. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you very much for making the time to be on the show. If you don't mind, could you please share who you are with our audience as well as your story in terms of what made you start Camino Brewing Company?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to do that. It's always, a little hard, being put on the spot, Sajid, when you got to come up with, but I think I'm happy to join you in this conversation. So I'm 40. I'll be 47 this May, and I have two children. I have 8-year-old. I've got these beautiful twin daughters, actually. Sadly, their mom had a battle with leukemia, and she passed away in 2020 after about a 5-year battle. So that was definitely a big part of our journey, and she was a big part also of how we founded this beer company. The beer company's the background of how we got it founded was that, my partner, Nathan Polis, who really is the brewmaster behind this, he and I we were not in the beer industry. We didn't ever have any intention of being in the beer industry. Both of us are career professional in the public interest legal profession. So he's been a criminal defense attorney, for almost 20 years. I've practiced juvenile law, working with children in foster care for about the same amount of time. And, kind of real nitty gritty practice, really trying to help the underdogs and those that are not served very well, in our society. And in that living that kind of hard journey, what happened is that Nathan brewed beer at home. He was a home brewer. So he made it in his garage on a 5-gallon system. And it was a passion, a hobby for him, but it was good, like the quality of it, the taste of it, the flavor profile. It was always something people were impressed about. They talked about it. Sometimes we would joke about, like opening a beer company. That's kind of what was going on. And then what happened is in 2006, he invited me to take some time off from work and to go with him on a pilgrimage tour, to bicycle about 600 miles across the north of Spain on this pilgrimage tour called the Camino de Santiago, which is kind of a historical route that people walk or cycle. And it's been going on, for like 1,000 years now, and people do it every day. And they do it for all different kinds of reasons. It's become kind of an international, experience, no matter what your faith, your culture, your background. People go there for all kinds of reasons to walk this path, to have this kind of outdoor experience, right? Taking a step aside from our everyday lives, getting out on the road and kind of just like walking it out and talking and meeting people and being in nature, right? The first time we did it, it rained like 14 nights, like while we were out in the open. We had to kind of live with this kind of condition. And then we got back, and a few years later, he asked me to do it again. And this time he had planned out this 45-day journey from Rome, Italy, all the way to Santiago de Compostela, Spain. So bicycling across 3 countries and about almost a 2,000-mile bicycle journey, just the two of us. And we decided to do it. We trained for it. We got out there. And it was really on that journey that we really started dreaming up and talking about the beer and eating food. We were experiencing the terroir, of all of these lands, the wines, the regions, the food in France. And we started to think about what we were doing and could we sort of take our experience of this Camino journey and just kind of create a brand for Nathan's beer, and would people buy it? Could we that's how this started. And when we got back, I spent about 2 years developing this idea, writing plans, and then we started taking it to these local vendors in San Jose and just, would you sell it? Could we? And little by little, doors started opening for us. And then the big break for us was Whole Foods Market. They were building a brand new Whole Foods Market in downtown San Jose, and it had its own tap room, small 5-barrel brewery attached to it. And they were going to carry all kinds of beer there. And they asked us if we could go on tap there for the opening of that event. And we really had to hustle. We didn't have a license to make beer. We were really just still experimenting with this whole thing, but we did. And before we knew it, we had our beer on tap for the opening at this Whole Foods market. And then they were so supportive of us that they said, hey, if you put this in bottles, we'll put it in 42 markets, like simultaneously. And we'll distribute that ourselves through our internal distribution network. And so we did it, and it almost failed. It almost failed miserably because the truck that had all the beer bottles, on it, that was driving to the brewery where we were making beer at somebody else's brewery now. And so the truck that was supposed to come to the brewery to fill the bottles to take it to the Whole Foods, that truck accidentally went to my home address. And I live way up in the mountains in the Santa Cruz mountain area. And I'm not joking, Sajid. I was driving, where is the truck? It's all going, like wrong. I'm driving home, and Deborah, actually my mom and my daughters were on this is a true story. They were on the road talking to this truck driver who was clearly shaken up. They were like giving him food to eat. And the semi truck with all the beer bottles was on this extremely steep incline, and the back wheels were hanging off of like the cliff, for real. And what happened is that he had the wrong address. He was trying to get it up this hill, and the gas, it wouldn't go. So he hit the brakes and the thing locked up, and the whole truck started backsliding down the road, and he jumped out of the driver's side door. And the truck stopped with like two wheels hanging over the cliff's edge. And that's what I came to when I got there. And we had to get a tow truck and get that thing down, and we did. And that guy got the beer to the Whole Foods the next day at 6 a.m. and it got done. It was insane, right? But it's just a little illustration of just how challenging it can really, when you're in the middle of your life, right? And you decide to take an adventure like what we decided to do. Enormously challenging, right? But it's like you don't give up.
Very wonderful story, and thank you for sharing. So you started, Whole Foods approached you, they loved the opening day, and they approached you to basically bottle it up, and you went immediately to 42 states or stores?
No, stores, just 42 markets in the Bay Area.
Okay, got you. Okay,
Right.
and then from there, what happened? I mean, tell me more.
So the beer that we were making, was, Nathan makes a really great stout, a dark solid stout. Think like a Guinness or something like that, right?
Okay.
But what we did is we wanted to add some nice flavor to it, and so we went to a local coffee roastery in downtown San Jose. It's called Chromatic Coffee. Okay. And there's a couple of stores, and it's kind of a cool, kind of place. And I walked in there and I introduced myself one day on my lunch hour. I mean, literally out of the courtroom. I walked out of the courtroom. I walked into there with my suit on, and I said to these guys, hey, this is what we're doing. We would love to, put your coffee in our beer. I think it would taste really good together. And, they were cool, and we did it. So the next thing I know, it's like gallons of coffee. We're driving it up on the lunch hour to this brewery. We're dumping it in. We're making this thing we've never made before. But the Whole Foods thing was successful, and people liked this other style that we had made. So we tried it with this coffee beer, and it was called Café con Leche, and it's still one of our biggest selling beers today. We bottled it, same thing. We sold it through all these Whole Foods markets. We entered it into a competition in a couple of years, and then in 2018, we won the best of show in the category, and we took it from major brewery, Ballast Point Brewing Company. I mean, that company sold for $1 billion. It's the largest purchase price in craft beer history, as far as I'm aware. And we took the gold from them. So that felt pretty good. And it just, those little things were motivating, and so it was tough because we didn't have any money. We don't have anywhere to go to know exactly how to get investors, right? This isn't our experience, but we believed in it, and we believe, and Nathan worked really hard, and while I was trying to figure out how to get the vision and get the interest and get the next sale. He was, like operating like our little tiny, then it's like, okay, go to the brewery, make the beer, test the beer. Everything's got to be perfect, the quality control, all that stuff, right? And so what happened is like we wrote our plans. We met a few people. We met an architect. I met a brand designer. Just being on the journey, right? Like people are pretty cool in the craft beer industry. Like you can get an audience with like a lot of people at a certain level, right? Designers, any of the service providers, like you can get an audience. And so we got lucky, and a gentleman by the name of Sean Scott, who's a super cool guy who lives in the San Francisco Bay Area. He's a great artist, a great graphic designer, a brand manager, and he's done a lot of major brands. So Golden Road out of Los Angeles, in the Bay Area, he's well known for Magnolia, Drake's. He's now New Belgium's designer. New Belgium's a huge beer company. And so he's Camino's, he was like our founding designer from the beginning, like all the brands, how we tell that story. We work with them very closely. And so what that's allowed us to do is to maintain the authenticity of our kind of background, because it's not really about us, right? And not anymore in any way, right? So, but the Camino, right? The spirit of the journey, the spirit of getting out there with people that you love and taking a risk like what we've taken, and taking a journey through all kinds of ups and downs, right? And now through a pandemic, through personal life, the things I was telling you about, it's become a metaphor. The Camino has become a metaphor, right? For us personally, and not only like in my own life, but like how we do our business, how we operate the business, the kind of events we put on, how we bring people together to our space. And so with that metaphor, we just kept going, we just kept going. And so the next thing is we raised just under $2 million from independent, non-related investors, people who believed in what we, the quality of our product. We had won this major award. And so that was there. And we found a place. We found a really interesting spot in downtown San Jose. Interesting area. Nothing's there, right? Like no economic development in over 30 years in the area we chose. Now, this is still a challenge, but ultimately I'm confident this was the right decision, because what we found was it was like meant to be for us, right? We found two mechanics warehouses that are beautiful, that had been rebuilt, like, with skylights and like granite floors, and like they're cool spots, right? And then right on the other side of one of these warehouses is this like, 5,000 square foot outdoor area with this beautiful, big, enormous 150-year-old pepper tree and these historic buildings right on the property. And what these buildings are is, for 100 years, this courtyard and this Victorian building that's from the 1800s, right, that's on this property, it was a bicycle shop. It was a family-owned bicycle shop called the Faber's Cyclery. And in San Jose, if you grew up there, like everybody knows about this place because it was just there for 100 years, right? It's a family-owned. And in 2014, the second story caught fire and it actually burned down. And the guy who bought it, his name is James Salata. He bought all these properties. And he's like a historical renovation guy. He's a builder. So he returned it to its like original condition. And so Nathan and I were looking at it and we were just like, wow, like we've had this bicycle journey. Our Camino life has brought us to this place. And, we did it. So we built a brewery there. And so we converted one of the warehouses into a 10-barrel brewery, and with a full tap room and a cold, cooler, and a nicely designed brewery for getting beer out to the trucks and serving it to customers. And then the courtyard, we really couldn't get access to it. He really didn't, it was hard for him to share exactly what we were trying to do. And it's expensive, right? But when the pandemic hit, they closed us down and we were going to go out of business. Because of the government closures, we could no longer serve people in our tap room. I think 90% of our business back then was served on site, right? And so he said, hey, what do you want to do? And I said, let's go into the courtyard. And we did. We cut a big hole in the fence, and the next thing you know, there was a door. The next thing you know, we put a window from our tap room through the wall to the courtyard so we could do faster service. And then Nathan and I built about, 25 picnic tables. I mean, we bought them kind of pre-made, but we built them and we stained them and we put them together, and we put them, because it was the least expensive way to get it done, right? And then we built a canopy, and little by little, it's like it filled in, and now it's full. We just had our 4-year anniversary on Saturday, 2 weeks ago, and it was packed all day. It was packed. We did about $1,000 an hour in beer sales over the tap, and people loved it. We have live music, we have DJs. Now on Wednesdays we have like R&B classic DJs called Wax Wednesdays with some really great DJs from the community. Thursdays we have live music with different bands that are being brought in by this nonprofit called the Urban Vibrancy Institute. And so it's very lively. We have food there 6 days a week with a local vendor who does really great tacos. And then on Sundays we have rotating food trucks. And so, that's kind of where we got to, right? Like that was kind of the next step. I don't know, do you have any questions? I mean, I can keep rambling on. I mean, you want me to just keep telling the story, or what do you think, Sachi?
No, I mean, this is good. I mean, I do have a lot of questions because as you're talking, one thing I think, and we will very quickly segue into marketing, because that's really building demand, getting people to know, things like that. But before we jump into marketing, I want to ask you about food. I mean, beer and food, they pair very well, right? When people get hungry, people are drinking, they tend to eat. What was the reason for you to decide, hey, let's get food trucks versus let us build a kitchen and do our own food and make more profit?
Well, no, that's a great question. At the time when we raised the money, we were very much capital constrained. You got to remember that with no background and no history, the people who gave us money, right? They tried to, they wanted to keep as much as possible and give the least amount possible. And so we were capital constrained. And so we had designs, we had ideas, we couldn't build it. We just did not have the capital to build it. However, we are now about to open a brand new round where we are going to raise $4 million to develop this site, build that kitchen, build a mixed beverage craft bar. The food is going to be amazing because we've got a chef who has got 7 restaurants around the world. There's a James Beard chef, and his name is Wes Avilla, and it's going to be one of his concepts. But it's going to be still fast, still easy, outdoor kind of we're not building a whole restaurant. I don't need all that, but it's in the plans. We're to fund it. We can talk about this later more, but we built an opportunity zone fund, which is a federally designed fund to support investors keeping their capital gains by investing in local communities to develop jobs, business, and we've figured out how to create that fund to back what we want to do in terms of our community development. So that's the next step is to get that kitchen and get that great food.
Oh, lovely. So now let's jump into marketing. We are a marketing company. We always love to hear what up and coming businesses and brands are doing marketing, because I figured out just by talking to you the last few minutes is that you're always thinking outside the box and finding solutions given the budget capital constraint. So with that, share with us, what did you do to market your name out there to get people aware of, hey, we have an on-site facility, come to a tap room?
Yeah, so gee, I mean, we did pretty much anything that one could think of, right? That seemed like there was a lot of experimentation in marketing, and so like an example in the very early days, we didn't even have a brewery. We put together a collective called the Downtown Craft Beer Collective, which was really essentially a marketing tool and a way to kind of test the market. And we put it together, and then we would start bringing our beer to events that we sponsor or that we created ourselves. I mean, so a lot of it is events, like events marketing is then an opportunity to talk about the product, to share the experience, to tell the story. So getting audiences, we've done political fundraisers where we got our beer, in as the service provider for various causes that we believed in. It was all very natural, right? We'd find things that made sense, that fit the metaphor, and then we would go after it, right? And so that was kind of in the beginning. And then, social media, I mean, I think has been a huge asset for us, along with like the email subscription service. So we use MailChimp and we use Instagram, and Facebook is kind of like an offshoot of it. But that's evolved, right? In the beginning, it was literally me, like just taking pictures or trying to tell the story of Camino through pictures. And it's kind of interesting, if you go to our Instagram, Camino Brewing Company, right, at Camino Brewing Company, and you scroll down to the very beginning, you're going to see all this crazy stuff I'm telling you about, like those early days. There's pictures in there of the truck, but with the driver and all that crazy stuff. And then it evolves, right? And we got better at telling the story. Eventually, we were able to hire somebody internally who could. One of her jobs was to keep that going. And now we use a professional agency who works closely with my brand designer and us on a weekly basis to tell the story, keep everybody aware of what's going on with food, with beer and events, live music, and put new products out there. And now it's much more organized. It's like a week in advance. We check everything. We make sure that we're doing what we want to do. But it took a long time to get where we are today, years. But it feels really good now, and so social media marketing, big thing, building the subscription base, sending out emails when we do events. We don't bug people, but if we do like a big party, we're going to let people know. And we have like about 2,000 subscribers now, and we have about 13,500, I think, Instagram followers, or 12,000, something in that range. And so it enables us to get the message out about what we're doing. And another thing with marketing is we just want to bring people to our place, because then we can tell the story. Then they can buy beer and take it home with them. We can a lot of the beer that we make. We're now distributed, right? We have a distributor that goes from, covers Northern California, basically. And like we're in 23 Safeway markets now, and all the Whole Foods in the area, local, but all the major chain retailers. And so that's marketing, because every time somebody sees our brand or they've been to our place, they make those connections. And so it's very difficult because we have a lot of big competitors, and they control the shelf space in distribution and in the big retails and in the markets. And so, I mean, we've got a guy who works for us full time, Pete Botch, and he literally is in there, he's elbowing, for shelf space, he's doing whatever he can do to get that display, right? Like, so some of it's elbow grease, just straight up elbow grease. Having a great brand, with good visual, good color, and then having like a story like ours that's really authentic. So we put marks in all of our products that relate back to our pilgrimage journey. And so if you, it's kind of a cult classic thing, right? If you know about that, or if you find out about it, you'll see a mark and you'll go, oh, that's that arrow. That's why they call that beer Follow the Arrow, because they literally followed yellow arrows all the way across Spain on that journey. That's how you get across the Camino, is hand-painted yellow arrows on rocks and trees and the sides of buildings. And, one day I was like, let's call our Pilsner that, like while I was out backpacking on a trail. And so that kind of organic, real thing that we then sort of get into the brand and into the products. I mean, you can't quantify that, but I'm sure that has been the major, again, it's the metaphor, like getting the metaphor of the Camino into what we're doing. I think that there's some energy to that, right? That people want to experience. And so, like now, at this point, I'm actually teaching a class at Santa Clara University in their MBA program, in the marketing department, for their MBA program. And some of these kinds of things are the things we're talking about as well.
Cool. Let's go into the MBA program now. And you also have students who are helping you. So can you talk a little bit about it? Because I think that's also helping with your marketing a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's so what it is there's a class at Santa Clara U in the MBA marketing program, and they have like 5 teams of about 5 or 6 students on each team. And the whole class is designed around the Camino brand. And the goal is that they're going to learn a lot about, marketing and business, working with a local business in the community. And it's like, like a field test case for them. And for us, when we're constrained and we don't have a marketing professional working for us in-house, now we have these students that are, kind of focused on being that for us. And so, maybe there are interns that come to us, through this MBA program. I think that's on the table now, like consistently, so we can have somebody inside that's very like focused on the marketing. Right now, we've selected some topic areas, right? So from the marketing perspective, brand awareness is one of the team's jobs. So, how are we going to get that mind share in a highly competitive, consumer product area like craft beer? One of the teams is sort of taking the jump from that and then asking the questions around leverage. What are the mechanisms that exist that can sort of like, what are the levers that can get people to come to our place or get people to choose our product over the 30 other competitors on the shelf, right? So that's one of the teams. One of the teams is working on an ambassador program. Like, how can we utilize our already existing loyal customers to be brand ambassadors, at low cost to us, or no cost, just some shirts and swag and whatnot. Stuff like that. I think there's a couple of other things I'm not remembering off the top of my head right now, but you get the idea.
Okay, cool. So for anyone who's listening out there, how can they also take advantage of a program such as this? Are you getting this thing done because you are teaching at Santa Clara,
No.
or is it because universities actually have something professionally crafted that they can tap into? Is this a program?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So it's kind of interesting. I can't speak to any other university, right? But Santa Clara University, their business department, their marketing department, they've taken an interest in craft beer. So like just coming up on May 6th is a big event called the Business of Craft Beer. It's a big dinner, a bunch of breweries, including mine, are going to be there, talking and sharing. And so this happened organically. It was one of my connections, happened to work at Santa Clara University, and she happened to be in the marketing program. And she said, "Hey, Alan, I think they would really like what you guys are doing." She made a connection with a professor. 2 professors came out to my brewery. We sat down and we talked. And the professor said to me, his name is Juan. He said, "Alan, how would you feel if we made your brewery, your brand, into our marketing class?"
Wow.
So I said, "Yeah, let's do it." It's like the same thing, it's just, he's another person that has joined us in our community development.
No, Alan, again, I'm going to ask you this because, San Jose is in the Silicon Valley, right? It's next to Silicon Valley, and that area has this culture of give first, help first, pay it forward. Do you think that plays a little bit into all the help you're getting from the community?
I think it must be a little bit, I mean, I do think that there's some of the investors that came in, or some of the markets that were willing to take that risk or encourage us to take that next step. I think that pay it forward attitude is really important. I mean, from my personal life experience, kind of just being on this journey, look around. I'm reading this great book by this guy, Parker Palmer, and he talks about the metaphor of spring and summer. And he talks about the abundance at the end of spring. Nature just abundantly just seeds, right? It just throws its seeds everywhere. And everywhere you look, it's just beautiful wildflowers and fruiting trees, right? Like that's nature. That's what nature does. Well, we're nature too, right? I mean, human beings are part of nature too. And I think that pay it forward attitude is not all that different when you tap into that kind of basic idea, right? That like, And Camino has always been about that. Like we're all about terroir. We're all about the land. We're all about the food and the beverage, the ingredients, the life cycle of the whole thing. It's not just like a product that is detached from nature. And I think that because we're so clear about that in how we operate the business, when we hire people, when we have conversations with folks like you, there's some kind of a resonance there that taps into that pay it forward kind of attitude. And I do think maybe the people in the Bay Area, you know, maybe they're a little bit more open to it in the business world, you know, and there's a lot of, in tech, there's a lot of capital, right? There is a lot of money being generated here. And so we were lucky, you know, we got it going, you know. Now I hope through my Opportunity Zone fund, we can have more pay it forward, right? And here it's just easy. It's like your capital gains, you dump them into the fund. 10 years later, you pay no capital gains tax on your investment growth. You've developed a community. You know, I don't know. I don't really know, you know, if it's going to work or not yet, but I'm hopeful.
No one has seen the future, but we have to try. We have to keep going.
You just have to keep trying.
Okay, cool. So now coming back to marketing again, and I think we are going to wrap up very soon. But one thing I want to say, okay, fine. So you have social media, you're focusing on social media, and are you also focusing on other things in the future? Are there plans to look at other areas like, you know, paid or SEO, any other opportunities that you're looking at?
Absolutely. I mean, I've for a long time have wanted, you know, to be able to do the SEO, you know, to use whatever levers we can use, right? Again, to create brand awareness. That's the key for me, is like, how do we get this brand out in front of people in a way that leverages their purchasing of our products, you know? And being able to quantify that, being able to like, oh, that's one of the things that the MBA program is doing, is they're studying the analytics of all the social media so that we can use that data to help us to create those levers and to be more strategic, you know, about how we go about marketing Camino.
Okay, cool. But why do you think SEO is going to pay dividends? I mean, it's going to cost you money, right? I mean, whether it's in the form of time or resources or something, but it's going to cost you. So why do you think SEO is important?
Yeah, I think it's simple, right? Like if you right now, I haven't done this in a while, so your audience can experiment. But if you go Camino Brewing Company, right, you're gonna find us right away. It's gonna come right up.
Yes.
But if you do a general Google search and you just go breweries in the San Francisco Bay Area or breweries in San Jose, right? So if you've never been to San Jose and you're traveling and you're on an international business trip or whatever, and you want to go to the local craft brewery because you're into that, and a lot of people are, you type in, you know, craft brewery San Jose. Well, I think right now Camino comes up like on the second page. You know, but SEO would put us up like first, right? And that would translate into people coming in more, right? And so I think there's I think pretty quickly we would recoup the value of that investment, but you got to have that budget, right? And so we're trying to get to that profitability, right? That's we're moving towards, like, we're right there, but we're still generating that. And so we just don't have a budget yet. So we're still, it's still guerrilla marketing tactics at this point.
But it's working, I will tell you.
Yeah, it's working.
Right. I mean, I love it. I mean, you know, we found you and, you know, we're talking about it, and everything I hear about it gets me excited. Unfortunately, I am on the other side of the coast.
Yeah, I know. I'd say come in, you know, we could have a craft beer and, you know, and just talk in person.
And I used to actually travel a lot to San Jose because I actually started my professional journey with a company that was based in Sunnyvale, right? And, you know, from there, obviously I've gone to San Jose quite a bit. Palo Alto, there was office as well. But anyway, that's a discussion.
Yeah, next time you come into town, you owe me a visit, man. So
absolutely. I want to come in. I want to check it out, as well as also I want to be a part of your, you know, journey as well.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Okay, so we mentioned about SEO, and have you looked at anything else? Like, people talk about, hey, we can put some money into Facebook and promoting our events, things like
A
that.
little bit. Occasionally we'll use those targeted ads, through Facebook or Instagram. Occasionally we'll use the local paper, to kind of, but we try to do it in a very targeted way, because it is hard to, unless you got a lot of money and you can just keep throwing it at it, it's hard to be able to kind of quantify the return on that. I mean, it's impossible, really. So we'll do it when we have a big event coming, and I think that if we did have, when I'm not going to say if, I'm going to say when we have, more financial resources for marketing, we would probably do more of that, per course, right? Placing it in different, like, for example, there's a local ballpark. You'll like this. The San Jose Giants is the amateur league that feeds the San Francisco Giants. And so they've got a ballpark, like a nice, fun, feels like a real ballpark, right? It's great. Kids, hot dog, everything, right? And there's like 3 or 4 bars, and that place now carries our beer at 3 of the 4 bars. But we could have a banner over the whole ballpark, a big banner. But I need money for that.
Okay, last question, and we are going to pause there because we know we've been going longer than I plan to go.
Okay, sure.
Say, imagine tomorrow if you had $5,000, extra $5,000, and you have to choose between spending it on Facebook or SEO. Who would you go with? Why?
I would put it into SEO. It's something I've wanted to do for a while, and I think with a good strategy, we've got a great website. We've got a fantastic website, CaminoBrewing.com. Check it out. Got an online store, that you can purchase our products. You can pick it up. We deliver it. We ship it in California. And I think that whatever we can do to get that technology more integrated, more leveraged, how do we do that? I would like to make an investment in that. Something we've never done, and it's something I would very much like to do as a next step.
Okay, I mean, at least, in my opinion, again, I could be biased because we are in Google marketing space, but I will tell you is, with SEO, you're making an investment. It's like planting a tree that's going to keep on paying dividends, versus Facebook ads. If you do it, $5,000, people see it while you're paying for it, and as soon as you shut down the ads, poof, it's gone.
That's the thing. And Facebook today, it's like, I'm not even sure, people it's a little bit tainted, and I'm not so sure that people really, I think Instagram for me is a little bit, like, it's a place that I'll go, and if I get it, but I agree with you. It's like a once and done, it's expensive. Whereas I'm all about the return, right? Like how do we create this thing that gives returns for a lifetime
or days or months and years to come.
Yeah.
With that, Alan, thank you very much for your time today. It was absolutely a pleasure talking to you, hearing about your journey, a lot to learn. Thank you, and wishing you all the best.
Thank you very much. Take care.